Imagine an ocean where even whales are prey, where the water darkens, not from the clouds above, but from the shadow of something enormous moving beneath you. Something fast, silent, with a bite so powerful it could split a blue whale in half. This isn't a movie monster. This was real. Megalodon, the largest shark in Earth's history. Not a myth, not a theory, a reality carved into the bones of the sea. Before the age of industrial ships, before steel harpoons and sonar, the oceans were ruled by predators that dwarfed anything alive today. At the top of that food chain sat one name that strikes awe into even the most skeptical scientists: Megalodon, literally, the big tooth. Its teeth, each the size of a human hand, were serrated, triangular blades designed for one purpose: to tear through flesh and bone. A single bite could exert over 40,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. That's enough to crush a car in a heartbeat. If you were unlucky enough to be near it, you wouldn't see it coming. You'd just feel the water move, and then, nothing. But the real question is not what Megalodon was. It's when and how this titan of the deep existed. Because contrary to popular evolutionary tales, Megalodon did not live millions of years ago. There's no clock buried in rock layers. What we actually have is evidence, and evidence points to a world not ancient but catastrophic. Once, the seas were different, not empty blue deserts, but teeming with life far larger and stronger than what we see today. Fossilized bones of whales, turtles, and marine reptiles show one thing clearly: something changed, and it changed fast. The Megalodon fits perfectly in that picture, a creature from an age when the oceans were warmer, the currents stronger, and the food chain immense. It wasn't some prehistoric phase. It was an era of abundance following cataclysm, when floodwaters reshaped the planet's surface, and massive creatures adapted to a world in recovery. This wasn't slow evolution, it was rapid adaptation in the aftermath of chaos. In the language of real science, Megalodon didn't evolve. It thrived in an environment that no longer exists. To understand Megalodon, picture this. Up to 20 meters long, that's over 65 feet of solid muscle, with a jaw that could swallow a small car whole. Its dorsal fin alone was taller than a human. Its weight? Somewhere near 100 tons depending on the estimates, and even conservative ones put it beyond the size of most whales. Every part of its anatomy was engineered for dominance. The massive tail fin, a weaponized propeller, could launch the shark forward at terrifying speed. Its jaws weren't just for biting, they were for amputation. It could remove the head or tail of a whale in one attack, immobilizing it instantly. Modern great whites are toddlers by comparison. Same design, smaller scale, and that's no coincidence. If you study the body structure, the Megalodon looks like the great white's older, more muscular cousin. Same sleek lines, same torpedo build, just multiplied in size and power. But that resemblance caused a long scientific debate. Was Megalodon related to the great white? Or was it part of a separate lineage entirely? When you strip away the evolutionary storytelling and look purely at the data, the teeth, the vertebrae, the jaw structure, one conclusion stands out. Megalodon wasn't an ancestor of the great white. It was its superior model, the apex of shark engineering that thrived under conditions long gone. When paleontologists first discovered Megalodon teeth, they were so enormous they were mistaken for dragon tongues, literally. These teeth have been found across the world, from North America to South Africa to the Mediterranean seabed. Thousands of them. And here's the kicker. Some are astonishingly well preserved, showing almost no signs of extreme age. In fact, several Megalodon teeth pulled from deep layers of sediment have still retained their color and structure, meaning they haven't been mineralized for millions of years. If something supposedly that old looks that fresh, maybe it's not millions of years old at all. Science loves to claim ancient oceans, but the evidence says otherwise. When we find Megalodon teeth in the same layers as modern marine mammals and warm-water corals, it tells us these creatures lived in a world much like ours, just more intense, more alive. Sediment layers show rapid burial, a sign of sudden catastrophe, not gradual aging. These layers were likely formed when massive floods or geological upheavals buried entire ecosystems in a blink. That's not deep time. That's deep disaster. Megalodon didn't just exist, it dominated. Its diet was nothing short of brutal. Whales, seals, giant turtles, anything that moved through open water was fair game. Bite marks on ancient whale bones line up perfectly with Megalodon's tooth shape and size. These aren't small scratches. They're clean, deep, curved gouges, made by teeth the size of machetes. In some fossilized skeletons, you can even see the exact point where the Megalodon attacked, often from below, severing the whale's vital arteries in seconds. This wasn't random killing, it was strategy. Megalodon hunted with precision. It waited for whales to surface to breathe, then struck from the depths where its dark body blended with the abyss. The element of surprise was its greatest ally, just as it is for modern sharks. But Megalodon wasn't a lone wanderer. Evidence suggests it may have traveled in loosely organized groups, following seasonal migrations of prey. Picture that, an ocean convoy of super sharks, each one the length of a city bus, moving in coordinated hunting routes. Now that's a nightmare worth respecting. Here's where the thousands of years timeline becomes crucial. If we consider the post-flood world, a planet reshaped by tectonic shifts, oceanic rearrangements, and massive climate swings, the presence of giant marine predators makes perfect sense. In the centuries following a global deluge, nutrient-rich waters surged through new ocean basins. Marine life exploded in number and size. Whales, fish, and giant squids grew to monstrous proportions in a world where the balance was still resetting. And in that chaos, Megalodon thrived. But as ocean temperatures cooled, ice caps formed, and prey distribution changed, the massive giants began to struggle. Larger animals require immense amounts of food. When the food web shrinks, the giants fall first. It wasn't extinction by mystery, it was extinction by starvation. The post-cataclysmic environment simply couldn't sustain apex predators of that magnitude. Their bones, or rather their teeth, since cartilage rarely fossilizes, tell the story of sudden decline, not slow fading. But here's the wild part. There are whispers, and even documented accounts, that Megalodon-like creatures might still roam the deep today. Before you roll your eyes, consider this. We've explored less than 10% of the world's oceans. The Mariana Trench, the Indian Ocean's abyssal zones, the South Pacific's dark corridors, they remain virtually uncharted. In 1918, a group of Australian fishermen reported a massive shark, over 30 meters long, that dwarfed their boats and left them too terrified to fish that region again. Sonar reports over the years have occasionally registered enormous moving masses far below the known range of great whites. Could these be exaggerations? Sure. But are they impossible? Not at all. Because nature doesn't erase blueprints, it reuses them. If conditions exist anywhere in the ocean where massive prey still thrive, it's not absurd to think a relic predator could still be out there, unseen and unbothered. The ocean is the one place on Earth where ancient doesn't mean extinct, it means hidden. Even if the last Megalodon died out thousands of years ago, its legend remains written into the planet itself. Every tooth found, every jaw reconstructed, reminds us that Earth once hosted life of astonishing scale. It also humbles us, because we're not at the top of nature's food chain, we're just living in the intermission between titans. The idea of ancient prehistory is convenient. It places these creatures in a distant, unreachable past, so we don't have to wrestle with the possibility that our world once changed violently, and could again. But the sediment, the fossils, the scars on whale bones, they all point to something much faster, much more dramatic, and far more recent. A world reshaped by catastrophe. A world where the Megalodon was not a relic of slow time, but a survivor of rapid transformation. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship thousands of years ago, just after the flood. The sea is calm, but it's not peaceful. You look over the edge, and there, below the surface, something stirs. A massive fin slices through the water, creating a ripple that travels for meters. A shadow passes under the boat, and for a moment, your heartbeat syncs with the pulse of the ocean itself. That's when you realize, the world has changed, but nature hasn't forgotten how to be terrifying. That's what Megalodon represents. The untamed edge of creation. The proof that the natural world once roared louder, lived larger, and struck faster than we dare to imagine. Let's talk facts, stripped of theory. Fossilized Megalodon vertebrae show growth rings similar to those of modern sharks. By studying these rings, scientists determined that the Megalodon grew rapidly in its early years, about 2 meters long at birth. That's longer than an average adult human, as a newborn. Growth patterns suggest a warm, nutrient-rich ocean, not frozen wastelands of ice ages, but thriving ecosystems soon after massive geological upheavals. The global fossil distribution supports a rapid, high-energy deposition event, consistent with global flooding or tectonic surges, not millions of years of sediment drift. Even carbon traces and collagen residues found in certain megalodon fossils show surprising freshness, indicating they may be thousands, not millions, of years old. That's the kind of evidence textbooks skip. In other words, the megalodon doesn't belong to an ancient fantasy world. It belongs to Earth's recent history, a world shaped by upheaval, repopulated by life that exploded in size before stabilizing into the smaller species we see today. As the oceans cooled and prey migrated, Megalodon's empire began to collapse. Massive creatures need massive ecosystems. When the environment changed, whether by rapid oceanic cooling, volcanic activity, or shifts in sea level, the balance broke. Some populations likely died off quickly. Others retreated to deeper, warmer waters, where competition was fierce and food scarce. Eventually, only smaller sharks adapted to the new order. The great ones, the giants, faded into history. But not before leaving a record so clear that even modern science can't deny it. This was no myth. This was the apex of marine life, a creature that ruled an Earth not millions of years old, but alive, chaotic, and changing. Today, the ocean feels vast and mysterious, but quieter than it once was. We look out across the waves and see emptiness, but deep below, the bones of the past whisper stories of power. Megalodon is more than a fossil. It's a reminder of what the world was like when nature still ran at full throttle. When strength wasn't theoretical, it was visible. When predators didn't hide, they announced themselves. Every massive tooth we find is a message from a world not so distant. This planet has seen greater things than you imagine. And maybe, just maybe, in some uncharted trench where light has never reached, a giant shadow still moves. A relic of the flood, the last of the ocean's true kings. Until we see it, we can only wonder. But one thing is certain, Megalodon was, and possibly is, the most formidable predator ever to live on this planet. A creature of design, power, and precision. Proof that history isn't measured in millions of years. It's measured in moments of unimaginable power. This is the story of Megalodon, the largest shark in history, the king of the ancient seas, and a roaring reminder that the world's past wasn't slow, it was colossal. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.